Hello? 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 Should I put up already? Present to the audience.
I would ask you to take a seat so we can get started with the second round of our finalist pitches. And the very first pitch of this round is presented by GrowSmart. GrowSmart will be joining us online through AirMeet, so you will be able to see them on the big screen as well as here. But the process is exactly the same as the ones before. GrowSmart will have 5 minutes to present their pitch. They will be sharing their own screen from their device. Just to quickly check, GrowSmart, can you hear us?
Hello, yeah, we can hear you.
Amazing. We can also hear you.
Brilliant.
Great. So as before, you will have 5 minutes to pitch your idea, and then that will be followed by 5 minutes Q&A from the jury, and then 5 minutes Q&A from the audience. So
Perfect. Can you see our screen?
you're good to start. We will let you know once you have 30 seconds left for your pitch.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Can you see our screen?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Did you know it takes 9 tons of carbon emissions to fly 2 tons of vanilla from Madagascar to Europe? That equals to approximately 6 households' yearly consumption of electricity. This is the amount of carbon emissions we could save by producing vanilla in Germany.
We will grow natural vanilla in an ecological way in the heart of Europe for local consumption.
Why vanilla?
My grandmother's best dessert is her vanilla ice cream. It can compete with any gelateria. She once told me the secret is all about the quality of the vanilla. It got me thinking how far the vanilla had actually traveled to become part of her beautiful recipe. I then asked myself, why not plant the vanilla here in Europe? As it turns out, most spices can be grown in Europe if done so indoors. This would mean a revolution of the spice industry as well as a step forwards to a greener tomorrow.
So global demand for vanilla has outgrown the supply. Vanilla supply and prices are challenged by geopolitical instability, drought, and disease.
Secondly, carbon emissions of the agriculture industry is high and rising. Many products get delivered from overseas. Traditional farming and mass production creates large waste streams and pollution.
At GrowSmart, we aim to fill the gaps in vanilla supply chain and eventually substitute the import by local controlled greenhouse production.
We will have totally self-sustaining farms. Distribution to the customer will be done via trains and electrical vehicles in order to minimize carbon emissions. We are 2 students from Switzerland. My name is Nicholas. I'm the founder and CEO of GrowSmart. I also act as operations and sales manager.
And my name is Daria. I am the co-founder and I'll be taking care of marketing, PR, and communication. And we will initially rely on the external agro and financial experts to step in and fill in any gaps.
Vanilla is an orchid that grows similarly to vines. Our domes will be equipped with soil pillars on which will let the vanilla grow vertically to maximize yield on a small surface.
And vanilla is a plant that requires only partial sun, so the limited sun in Germany will not be an issue.
The domes are around 10 to 12 meters in diameter, so they can easily be placed even in urban environments.
And
current situations such as COVID and wars have proven that adapting the supply chains is a must.
Therefore, game-changing new technologies are key for countries to become more self-sustainable.
Furthermore, actions to counter climate change are as pressing as ever.
We're going to target enthusiasts and home cooks and influencers that value ecological products in their kitchen and are willing to pay a premium, and will intensively use social media to enhance customer lifetime value and accelerate online sales.
Our second target market is restaurants and high-end outlets focused on valuable and eco-friendly products. In the long run, medical and cosmetic markets will offer further opportunities. For all target markets, we will incorporate direct reach outs to relevant opinion leaders and gourmet magazines.
This is a conservative view on the obtainable market share in Germany by 2033, so in 10 years, and we expect the market growth to be at 4.7%. However, our future roadmap with ideal financing will look something like what you can see on your screen now.
In order to reach our 10-year goal of 20% of the European market representing a turnover of 91 million, we would require a startup funding of 400,000 and a second round funding in year 3 of 3 million to expand our dome network to 131 domes by 2033.
International companies such as Samrise are all major vanilla suppliers in Germany, but they're not focused on vanilla only.
Vanilla Vida, an Israeli-based vanilla startup that operates in the same direction as us, however, are still far from expanding in Europe and not focused on the ecological part of the agriculture. Then we have Australia Vanilla Farms that successfully operates sustaining little domes in Australia and kindly share that experience with us. Localizing production in Europe would reduce risk of violation of human rights and poverty common in Madagascar's plantation. The ecological aspect is also a real competitive advantage.
Our background in hospitality gives us access to big network in F&B industry and facilitating market entry for us. Concept availability has also been proven by our direct competitors in Israel and Australia, and we do not have any competition in Europe yet, so now would be the time to act.
Daria and I are both Gen Zs, and it feels it is our responsibility to help save our planet. To convince customers of our best practices, we will adopt a 100% transparency policy. I mean, what better label can you have?
Revenue streams will be divided into 4 major parts: direct sales to restaurants.
Thank you very much, GrowSmart. Your time is up.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you. Give them a hand, please. Very great pitch. So just to let you know, our sound team is working on regulating the sound, but it's very difficult because you both are speaking at different pitches. So we will try to manage that here. But now we open the Q&A 5 minutes to the jury. And I think we start with Björn.
I have 2 very quick questions. First of all, with regard to the competitors, you were just mentioning you have 2 direct competitors. So why do you believe there's still a market? Because simply, I mean, they could do it. Second question is, I was not fully understanding your customer base. In particular, your customer target number 1. Is it an individual who is basically placing this dome in his or her garden, or how does it mean? The second one was retail. This I understood, but what was the first one? That's my 2 questions. Thank you.
So to answer your second question, it will be us who will be placing the domes, and we will be producing the vanilla and curing it, and then sending it out by probably monthly subscription to individuals, let's say cooking schools, or just people like you and me, or someone who's more in our potential marketing, who can subscribe and get their freshly vanilla once a month because they bake their favorite dish with vanilla, make ice cream. Yeah.
And yeah, regarding your first question, it was concerned to direct competitors. Basically, the direct competitors are good for us because they prove that the concept is valid and works. However, in the European market currently, which is more or less half of the world market, they're not there yet, right? So I think if we act now, there is a perfect opportunity for us to establish here before they come.
Very nice. Then Irene.
Just to be clear, so the product you're selling is the final organic vanilla pod, is not the dome, right? You're growing them in those so-called domes in cities or wherever you want to grow them, but that means you require a big capital investment to build those domes. And how much is that going to be? Because you're saying first sales in 2026, that's 4 years from now. Why so long? And how much capital do you need to raise even before you have sold the first vanilla pod to anyone?
So if I bring you back to our roadmap, basically we plan, if we start the construction and plantations in 2023, vanilla beans and the plants, they need 3 years until they can have their first harvest. Thus, our first sale in 2026. From there, they will give a regular yield every year for 18 years straight. So it's a first one-time investment in the beginning for the dome and the plant.
Where will the first plantation be locally? Where will it be?
So we thought about doing it in Duisburg in Germany because they have a very good railway system, right? And since we will rely on eco-friendly transportation to limit the carbon emissions, we thought that it could be a nice way to do it there.
And in your business plan, how much money do you need to build those domes on your first plantation site?
So basically, we want to pilot our project with one single dome. we calculated that we would need around 150,000 for a dome itself. And then the dome, and with the construction and everything, in total we said it would be around 300 to 350,000.
And the organic product, the vanilla that you will be selling, is that competitive in price later on with whatever's imported from other countries?
Yes, totally. Since we have a completely regulated environment in our domes, we can limit any external weather factors, and we have a constant supply of our vanilla coming up.
Yeah, it will have a constant light, constant temperature, will not be affected by, like in Madagascar, where most vanilla comes from, will not be affected by weather or bugs or anything.
I saw in your presentation you listed out companies like Oetker, who, for example, is a direct-to-consumer brand, while on the other hand, you also listed companies like Döhler, who is actually supplying to Oetker and stuff, because these are ingredient suppliers. So I think I'm a little bit uncertain about your stance on competition. So how are you classifying your competitors?
So basically, as our direct competitors are also small productions or startups who deliver the same end product like us, so it's vanilla beans. And other companies, they're really indirect competitors, but because most of vanilla comes supplied from somewhere else, like Madagascar once again, they just supply it to each other, to customers, they cure it, but they do not produce it locally.
Do you have any idea on the cost per vanilla pod to produce, and how long would it take for you to actually match the market price, right? Because we're talking about disrupting existing supply chain into preferring yours.
Mm-hmm. So to be honest, we did not calculate down the price per one single bean. So that's we didn't. However, our calculations with the revenues and everything are based on the current market prices of vanilla, which is around $350 a kilo. So we made our calculations on the current vanilla price, and by doing that, we believe that we could be. It could be break even at around year 4 or something already. So 2 years after.
So good initiative. I think you should really think about your marketplace. What are the players, and where can you really enter starting on?
Great. Now we open it up to the audience to ask questions as well. So a kind reminder to the audience online, you can put your questions always into the Q&A function on your right. And if there are any questions in the room, please raise your hand. Yes, I see one over there. Andy, you can go ahead.
You said that the dome, once the dome is created, there is a constant supply of vanilla in the market. So why are you building these domes in Germany and not somewhere else where it might be cheaper, and then focus on the transportation costs?
So our main, what we said before, so basically our main goal is to start producing locally. I think we spend way too much efforts on importing things from abroad, even if it's cheaper. And our goal here is not to make the biggest markup, however, to change the mentality in people and to create a new way of consuming where you consume even things that are exotic, such as vanilla, that are locally from your own country. That's why on our expansion plans, basically we will put these little domes all over Europe so that we can produce in every country for its own production, consumption. Don't know if that was clear.
More questions in the room? Yes, Alex.
Yeah, my question is, why did you choose vanilla? Is it because of the high value per volume? And if so, are there any other vanilla-like spices that you're going to focus on later?
Yes, so vanilla is actually second most valuable spice, so second most expensive spice in the world, and the most popular taste that is being chosen all over the world. So it's one of the biggest spice markets. And second, after that would be saffron, which is the most valuable spice, the most expensive, and also quite popular. But it would be a little bit different market because it's a little bit more pricey. It's a little bit more exclusive than vanilla.
And also the reason why we chose vanilla over saffron as a pilot project is that to create vanilla, you need a little bit less labor work. And saffron, for example, where the markup would maybe be even a bit better, is also doable. I looked it up. However, the labor cost would be very, very expensive.
Thank you. Are there more questions? Yes. Okay.
So you mentioned businesses like Dr. Oetker as indirect competitors. Well, don't you see an opportunity to be a supplier for such a business, for organic vanilla? I mean, that would easily be scalable then, right?
Scalable in the long run, for sure, but one dome that we are thinking of building produces about 3 tons of vanilla. 2 tons of vanilla, sorry. And initially, it will not be possible for such a small supply of us to supply such a big company, because they're not only operating in Germany, they're operating all over the world. But in a long run, for sure, it could be very possible.
Okay, I think there was also one question up here. You have 40 seconds. I hope that works.
Hello. Have you made comparisons in terms of sustainability for producing the vanilla outside and bringing it to Germany, or producing it by your own, like in terms of you will require calefaction or containing the temperature there? How is the price or the yep?
Very short answer, please.
Yes. Okay. So basically, our domes are self-sustaining. So we will use solar energy for the electricity. We will use recycling of the water. So therefore, it's an ecological impact that will be way more sustainable than importing it from abroad.
Yeah, because we'll have to fly.
We have to close it. I'm terribly sorry. We have to move on, but thank you very much. You've done a great job. And with that, yes, give them a hand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, even considering the circumstances. It was great to have you. Now we move on to the next pitch, which is by Goddard Discovery. We're still rewiring, but you can already come up to the stage. Here we go. You have your mic, the clicker, and the next 5 minutes are yours.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry, 1 second. We need to adapt the screen sharing. And you can go.
Hello, everyone. Did you know how many scientific inventions are happened by accident? Surprisingly, some of those inventions has the impact to change the course of humanity. For example, consider the case of penicillin, a discovery that happened just due to a carelessness shown by a researcher. And before discovery, doctors have no way to treat bacterial infections. People die every day due to trivial infections. After that discovery, it has saved millions of lives since invention. What if that discovery has been made deliberately possible? What if it would have been earlier? It would have saved many more billions lives, right? And more importantly, there are some inventions waiting today to be discovered just due to mere incidents, fortunate incidents, you can say. I agree, researchers are working very hard to make those discoveries deliberately possible, but researchers are themselves limited in their capabilities. Firstly, research process is still manual, and it's quite tedious. It lacks interdisciplinary activities, and it's inefficient, considering the amount of resources put in versus the outcome or impact it's making. What if there is a better way of doing it? We at Goddard consider that we have found a way of doing it. So, we at Goddard have found or discovered or developed an AI platform that enable researchers or scientists to make those scientific inventions deliberately possible every day. How it goes? We have an AI platform that enables researchers to read and visualize thousands of articles automatically. It has the capability to trace knowledge from thousands of articles on one point. And it provides a real-time collaboration support to researchers or people who are working on that problem, which currently is missing by other softwares. This brings us to another important question. How big is the market? Is it worth it? Yes. The research market is growing in size and it's $3 trillion in worth. We at Goddard are starting with a market worth 100 millions based on our connections and access to the market. The uniqueness of our product lies in the fact that it lies in the sweet spot where it's convenient and affordable. Other softwares are either expensive or are inefficient in doing what they are required to do. This is the very core of our business model. We propose to shorten the research cycle at very affordable price and provide a real-time collaboration support which no other software is providing at the moment. We target a market with research individuals, research academic institutes, and R&D corporate sectors. And we have a software as service model based on subscription. We have forecasted a break-even in 2 years, and we plan to have a revenue or forecasted a revenue of 10 million after the 5-year period. We currently have an MVP or minimum viable product, and we are attracting investment to scale. This is some pictures of our minimum viable product. And this is our amazing team that has made this possible. Our team comprises of people from different disciplines, having various and diverse skill set, and have made this possible to come this far and go further. We at Goddard don't let academic or scientific discoveries to accident. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we open the Q&A once again, and we start with the jury. And I think Helge has the very first question.
Yeah, thanks for the great pitch, and I think it's a genius idea to connect it. Can you tell me a little bit about the stage of your startup? What is developed? What are customers? You have a beta version, you have tried it, whatever?
Yeah, sure. We have minimum viable product ready, and we have it in our laptop. We can show it to you after the presentation, but currently it has features, and researchers can do what I say, like put in their research papers, analyze, and all these things automatically. We have that in, and it's in beta form. We are looking for investment to scale and go into the commercial market, and have it when we want to go it in the commercial market. We want to be best. That's it. I hope I clarifies your question.
Raju.
What do you think would be the cost to commercialize this? Maybe before that, okay. So in terms of the customer segments, you said it's the researchers?
Research individuals, academic institutes, and corporate R&D sectors. But we have different business model for different things. Like based on like we have individual subscriptions, and we have academic subscriptions, and we have corporate subscriptions. We have business pricing plan ready for that, and it's also in slide. If you want to show, I can show you.
Yeah. So I think one thing that's it's fine to go and scrap all this data and find some data, but what's missing is, like you mentioned, you started with finding sort of hidden truth or hidden discoveries,
Yeah.
right? So how do you enable that? This is something that's not clear. So it's just
Okay, so
it's just data scrapping.
So what happened earlier, like with all the accidental discoveries, one thing is common. They were interdisciplinary, and they were numerous possibilities that happened by accident. What AI is doing here is making going over or iterating over the millions of possibilities that are possible within domains. Like if we talk about astronomy and biology, if AI can go through millions of possibilities, and with the intelligence of human feedback, it can discover any new scientific discovery in a very quick manner compared to people working on it and iterating or reading hundreds of articles by themselves. So this, I hope I clarifies your question.
And talk a little bit about maybe the cost to commercialize this, because
Okay,
the MVP is not ready to be just sold off yet,
Okay,
right?
so it's we have set the pricing plan very low. For individuals, we are charging just 99 USD per year. For academic institutes, we are charging 999 USD.
Sorry, I mean the cost to commercialize this.
Okay. So for currently, we are looking at seed investment of 500 USD to commercialize and to go into market. And the breakdown of it is like we want to use 50% for the talent acquisition, 30% for marketing and promotion, and 20% for compliance and rules and compliance and all the rules and regulations where we are using that software.
Did you say 500K?
Yeah, 500K.
Okay, thank you.
As initial seed investment.
You seem to have a very international team. Where are you actually based? Because all three members of the team seem to be in different locations. So where's the entity physically?
Okay, so currently is incubated in Austria. I'm currently studying in France. And the other guy, the where it is based, it's doing PhD in AI. So he's a founder and advisor, and I lead the team in AI. And the other member is in US, California, and she's a data scientist.
Under which regulation am I investing? You're looking for 500,000 US dollars, you said?
Yes,
Half
USD.
a million. So am I investing in an Austrian entity or an American entity?
Based on it could be mutually decided with the investor, but currently we are incubated in Austria, but it could be mutually decided based on the investor preference and what he want to, how he want to see it in the location or other things.
And will that 500K take you to market, or is this just an initial investment to get from MVP stage to?
No,
the
it's
first
already
prototype?
in MVP. We just
Yeah, I know, but the 500K, will that take you commercially into the market, or will there be more investment required?
No, we just need that to go into the market. That's it.
Mhm.
And we will go into the market with that investment in 6 months.
Okay, validation, you say you have?
Yeah, we have
Because-
spent 2 years in ideation, validation, and studying market study.
Okay, so you can prove basically that your methodology really leads to shorter innovation cycles
Yeah,
or
sure,
research
surely.
cycles.
I have been a researcher. I have talked with other
How much
researchers.
shorter? Give me a number. How much shorter?
Okay, it depends on the innovative technology the researchers are working on.
Yeah.
It can vary from 3 months to a year and maybe more.
Thank you.
Great.
But in terms of R&D cost span, it saves much more time.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we open up the Q&A to the audience. So if there are any questions in the room, yes, we have one over there.
Hello. Yes. Yes.
Well, your team, which is supposed to be primarily directed towards the R&D market in the healthcare and biotech sphere, because that's the biggest market, I don't see any actual biotechnology researchers.
Okay,
on
so
your team.
we have a first to answer your question, we have a team of 15 people. Due to just shortage of time, I cannot write everyone's name, but we have a PhD in biotechnology working with us, and we also have employees working with us, like people in different countries. So we have a team of 15 comprising from having from different domains and different expertise. These three are the just founding members, not the whole team.
So
Thank
as
you.
a follow-up question to that,
Mhm.
you say the AI is going to do the work of reading all these
Mhm,
papers, but you have to give it a training set that's appropriate. So so what training sets are you using right now?
Okay, so we are not using directly the AI. We have a secret ingredient which is called literature-based discovery, and we are combining it with conventional AI. And that AI does not require directly a data set compared to conventional algorithms. And this is where our strength lies. So we don't need the explicit data. We are just using the already existing data that or the models that is already existing in the market.
So if you're using existing models, where's your USP? And also, how do you know that it actually works? If you haven't used it on a data set to test, then how do you know it's going to be able to read biological papers? They're very complex biological
Okay,
papers.
yeah, we have done it. Like we have the accuracy metrics and all the things. We can prove it on factually. But this slide is just for general audience, so I did not. That's why I did not include those figures here.
All right, thank you very much for this question. Now we actually have a question from online and from one of our mentors, Batu Rajaswar, and he is asking whom this innovations discovered by AI owns, and then also has a follow-up question on that. Well, I would say the first question for now.
I'm not sure what she asked. Can you repeat?
Yes, of course. He's asking whom the innovation belongs to in the end.
Okay, so whoever purchases our software and uses it, the IP and the rights belong to the company or the individual or whoever did research. Our software is just to enable those researchers and make those academic discoveries possible.
He also has a follow-up question. What if the scientific paper writer raises a case on your firm that you are using their paper?
Sorry?
He's asking, what if the scientific paper writer raises a case on your firm, so on you, that you are using their paper and their findings on something?
Okay, so we are currently not using anything that is not open source, and also we have our own models. So technically, no one can say that we are using their models. I hope I clarifies the question of the person who asked me this.
Right. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Then we have another question in the audience. We have several ones, actually. We can start with the one here in the front. We have 1.5 minutes left.
Oh, so many questions.
So I'll make it quick. So what differentiates you from your competitors? Because I saw that you had Iris AI there, and you said they were expensive and not convenient to use. What do you mean by not convenient?
Yeah, like by inconvenient, I mean they have less functionalities compared to our software, and they are not using the models or the technology that we are using. So that make them a bit that bit differentiate us from them. And what we are doing is pinpointing and targeting the core problems that the researchers that may face. So their business model is it's kind of different than ours. And they have their own way of earning and we have our own way of earning, but their functionalities are different and our functionalities are different. But I believe, and that's what I indicated in the slide, that our functionalities is more convenient for researchers. That what we, during the study or during the feasibility study, that what we discovered.
Great, and then I think there's time maybe for one very, very quick question. Sure. Yes, I see Safat over there. Try to keep it short.
Who focuses on the sales aspect, and who are your first customer base? Like, who are you looking to sell it for?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So basically, we have a go-to-market strategy ready in which we want to go to directly to individuals, not to academic sectors. But when we have the individual market and when we are kind of settle we have the individual target base, then we will go to academic institutes and then to corporate sectors.
And here we have to
at
close
this stage
it.
we have endorsement.
Sorry, we have to close it here now. Sorry.
No problem.
You can hand me the clicker as well. Thank you so much. Give it a hand. And next up we have Protagonist Pro. You get your microphone and the clicker as well. Good luck. You have 5 minutes. Yes.
Metamorphic, igneous rock, isotopes, Pluto is a planet, b squared minus 4ac is the quadratic equation. How many of these things that you learned in school do you actually use in your professional lives? Almost none. Most of the skills needed for the jobs of tomorrow aren't taught in schools today. Instead, schools focus on forcing students to follow standardized goals, such as memorizing, hence limiting their potentials. So the current educational ecosystem creates students who are unable to reach their full potential, unlike a protagonist. Is that really what you want for your children, to be limited by an outdated system? Or would you want them to be prosperous, independent, to stand on their own feet and make their own decisions in this chaotic world? That's where Protagonist Pro comes in. We equip students with the right tools they need to develop a growth mindset and become the best versions of themselves. We provide solutions for the future of today's children. We know one thing, teenagers love games, so we provide gamified activities every week. This is what it looks like. You get a video and text description, which users can interact with. For example, one of the activities, your life bit, which is like a Fitbit, but for your life. So these users would create goals and track KPIs in a different way while having fun doing it. One of the reasons games are successful is because they have prompt feedback. At schools, you have to wait for results to come. So we've made sure to give actionable, customized feedback to the students that they know what to do and improve on. We actually provide the top 10 skills of 2025 as mentioned by the World Economic Forum and more. At the moment, the current global e-learning market is worth 250 billion. And unlimited activities and a coaching program which is exclusive because this was in high demand after workshops. The team, the reason we've made it this far and are confident that we'd achieve more milestones in the future is because our team consists of industry professionals with over 4+ experience in culture, vision, gamification, having worked with Google in the past, guided by global project manager for IBM for the last 12 years, and tutors with over 4 years of experience in teaching. Those are our content writers. Financial projections at the moment, this is just a game for the Pakistani market that we're tapping into. So far, our current burnout rate has been $30,000 over the last year, which is divided between app development, HR, workshops, content. Projected cost for the next year for this year is 50,000 because we'll be hiring some more professionals, and projected revenue for the next 3 years in Pakistan is about 421,000. Competition, we have none in Pakistan, but as we expand internationally, we have Mindvalley as an indirect competition and Synthesis as a direct competition. The way we have an edge on them is we provide gamified activities, we give custom feedback, and our app is self-paced. Also, it's targeting the most important market at the moment, I would say, which is teenagers, the future of tomorrow. Currently, we have an MVP, which we've tested users out for, and April 2022 would lead to soft launch for marketing. Eventually, the plan is to capture 0.1% of the 250 billion e-learning market, and by the end of December 2022, to tap into the US. For that, we've already registered in Delaware and are on track to proceed. Marketing funnel, this is based on tried and tested for our workshops. Paid memes for teenagers, educational blogs for parents because they're the ones swiping the cards, and then word of mouth, Facebook groups for homeschooling parents. Second part is endorsement by proteins who are influencers, teenagers who have done well, test social media marketing. Lastly, live webinars for the parents, gamified workshop for the teenagers, and trial periods. This is some of the content we've used that has worked in the past. Just to show you how interactive, we've divided into both parents and students. And lastly, with over 400 users that have tested the app, this is just a few of the testimonials, which shows the credibility of Pro and the dire need for this in the industry. So sign up today to get your children to become the future leaders of tomorrow.
All right, and there we have to stop. Thank you so much. Give a round. Very nice pitch. And with that, we open the Q&A once again to the jury, and I think we have the very first question.
Hi, thank you very much for the pitch. My question was, what is the product? Is it an app? Is it a platform? Is it a camp? You started talking about camp, so is it an activity? Is it an event? Or is it actually something I subscribe to as an app?
So we started out with workshops, essentially, and we realized that with the high demand, we turned it into an application. So it is an application at the moment, which caters to a lot more students, and the application has the activities. That's our USP. It's the gamified activities that we're selling.
So it's an app. So if, as a user, as a teenager, I have a 14-year-old son.
Yep.
He would subscribe to your app and get, I don't know, 5 or 10 monthly activities.
Depending on the subscription model,
and
yes.
at the end of the day about coding as well and about developing things, or what does he learn on there?
Okay, so these are soft skills that you pick up on critical thinking, development, how to turn ideas into goals, how to work in goals. Our expansion strategy does include coding, a lot of science-based background, startups, entrepreneurship, those skills as well.
So are you already running? Do you have an MVP? Because you
We've
say
got
Pakistan is your first market.
We've got an MVP, but for that, it's only exclusive for the users that we've tested. It's only tested, it's not out yet. And the activities we did try out, so that.
But I mean, this has to be
Feedback from
attractive to
it.
parents, right? It's a B2C offer and the parents are paying for it, because my
Yes.
teenager wouldn't come on and pay $10 a month
Yes.
to pay for it. So the benefits to the parents, what are the benefits? Why should I pay for this? And is it attractive to the teenager? Because to clear my 14-year-old from his gaming activities, it's going to be quite hard if it's just an educational activity.
I agree, which is why we've gamified it, firstly. Secondly, how many times have you seen your teenagers on the phone and been like, oh, he's on the phone again, right? Now, this time he'll be on the phone actually learning stuff. So that's what you get out of it. You know, we can be happy that he's picking up skills. And as far as the teen aspect goes, we'll be using, like, we're marketed is in a way where we call it proteins, teenagers who have done well in life and how they achieved it. So they'll get the idea of FOMO, which is fear of missing out, that, hey, why can't I do that? That's what they get out of this.
Great. Raju and then Björn.
A little bit following on the question earlier, the product focus. I mean, you talked about critical thinking, but let's say you put in Mind Valley, for example, in the space of gamified, sort of, you guys know about Brilliant, you guys know Skeeter's games.
Yes.
Right, so those are actually, I see them as competitors. So why are they not there?
Firstly, it's the target market, teenagers. And secondly, Mindvalley is more direct competitor than those, because Mindvalley caters in the same sort of, the course structure is very similar to ours. So e-learning market is really wide, but e-learning gamified market is very limited, and self-paced as well is a difference. So those are not self-paced. So those are like sort of, you need mentors for that live.
And then let's say you talked 311 million, it was the projected market in Pakistan. So then you broke that down further. So could you talk a little bit about who are those?
Okay, so it's a niche in Pakistan. Firstly, it's a developing country, different requirements. We are only targeting posh schools, people who are able to pay for this, and parents that feel, hey, I'm sending my kids to the best schools, but they're still not achieving enough, like they have more. So that's our market actually. So that 311 million is actually just that. It's not even rest of the parents. That's the niche we're tapping into. But as we expand internationally, when in the US, it's more accessible, it's more cheaper. So we had to consider the purchasing power parity as well in Pakistan and the US. I hope that answered the question.
So the internet offers extreme scalability, but yet you say you're gonna partner with those, let's say, posh schools. So is that then, are you talking about sort of excluding certain elements in the market?
Initially, as a niche, that's what we're tapping into. But as far, which is one of the reasons we've actually developed the application, because eventually, once it becomes famous throughout these apps, throughout these schools, it can literally be implemented in any school throughout Pakistan or internationally. So this is just our entry strategy.
Okay, thank you.
Ben, you still had your question?
Yeah, similar to the question we had at the beginning. I'm wondering actually, because like you're all students, and I'm wondering what kind of evidence or trust you can bring to the parents to say, like, actually, I mean, students develop an academic app, you know? And like, basically, my first question would be basically, from where do you have actually the knowledge to give education, to teach other children, while you still not haven't even finished your own education? I mean, that would be my first thought as a parent, you know?
I understand that. So my background actually has been in homeschooling. I've been homeschooled most of my life, so I haven't gone through the typical education system. When I had a chance to study science, I was actually studying Excel and project management. So I've learned a lot from that. And at the moment, I think I've worked with Amazon when I was 19 as a business analyst. So I was able to achieve a lot more than perhaps the regular students, which I suppose is credible enough to put me in this position. Plus my team at the moment, she's skilled in gamification. She's worked with Google in the past. So not all of us are students, but at the same time, just to show the parents that this works. Our youngest employee is 14-year-old who's a content writer, and he produces actually, I would say, 40% of the content, and he actually did workshops as well. So we're not just selling the idea that, hey, we're trying to produce this. We're actually showing you we've got a team of people who've achieved it and they know how it works. And that's how we prove it. That's the trust.
Great, thank you. And with that, we move on to the audience Q&A, and I see that we do have questions online.
Exactly, we do. So the first one is again from Batu, and he's asking, what is the problem you are really solving? What is the difference between other e-learning platforms? Okay, for sure. He's asking, what is the problem you are really solving? And also, what is the difference between you and other e-learning platforms?
What is the probability I've already sold it? I've got hearing aids on. I do apologize for this.
What is the problem you are really solving?
Oh,
and then also, what is the difference between you and other e-learning platforms?
Okay, so the problem we're solving is the outdated education system and the fact that it's leading to very generalized personalities. Each one of us, especially the judges, you've made it so far in life by being able to express who you are, your unique expertise. In schools, we're limited with that, and that's what we're tackling here, allowing teenagers to understand what needs to be done. And how it differentiates from other e-learning platforms, again, as mentioned in the slide, it's gamified, it's self-paced, it's targeted to teenagers. It's almost for teenagers by teenagers, I could say. As I said, we have really young employees as well.
Okay, and I think there was even a second question online.
Exactly. This one is from Saskia Listler. She's also a mentor for us. And she's asking, how do you ensure that the soft skills you want to enhance are not sabotaged by teaching institutions? Children spend a lot of time there and get a lot of influence from these institutions, and they're not really made to support these important skills.
So from our testing, we did have this where a few of the students went back to, well, they did our activities, they went back to school. They're like, hey, but they told us something different, how does this work? And my teacher was like, and our plan is to hence collaborate with schools to get a better understanding of this so we can be on a similar page as well. And again, the parents will be guiding this.
Okay, great. Then I'd like to also ask the audience in here if there are any questions. Yes, there's one in the back.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. My question is, you've chosen Pakistan as a niche. I'm from Pakistan as well. And I know that parents spend a lot of money on, just sending their kids, like even my siblings were studying there, just to go out and learn these skills that you're talking about. And there is no unified application that you're mentioning. So, I mean, on average per student, the amount is around $200 to $300. So if you're bringing it down to 17, which is that correct? 17.
That's.
Yep. So that would be a big difference, I think. So, I mean, how do you plan to scale it to different countries? Because as you mentioned, if you target the niche, it will be very interesting for you to acquire more users. So what is your strategy for the global rollout in that case?
So for Pakistan, again, since you pointed rightly, it's a niche. Parents spend about $300 monthly on top of schooling to get their kids to have more skills, tuition-based, etc. And we are replacing that with something that's worth $77 a year, not even a month, right? So that's how we capture most of the market. Secondly, we'll be expanding this to business professionals, not only schools, people looking to get into other activities as well. So as far as skills goes, it's going to keep getting added. At the moment, we have 100+ activities on different top 10 skills that were mentioned by World Economic Forum.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that was the last question.
But okay.
Yeah, we do not have I don't think we have enough time for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can hand me the clicker. And with that, we come to the next team, which is DECAP. You can join me here on stage. All right. Your microphone and the clicker. You have 5 minutes.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jamie McGrill, and I am an MD PhD student at McGill. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something that you've never even considered before: needle stick injuries. Imagine you're the ER doctor. This is a stressful emergency room environment. Sirens are wailing, bells are dinging. You and everybody else have 10 different patients to take care of. But in all this chaos, you have to sit down and prepare 10 needles, 10 syringes, one for every single patient. But wait, you poke yourself with a needle containing HIV positive bloods. Now it's you in the emergency room. You have to take a week off work and you spend 6 months on antiretroviral medications. This is not so uncommon of a situation. 16 billion injections get performed every year. That number will double because of COVID. 60 million healthcare workers are at risk of infection, HIV, hepatitis C, and other infections. And 2 million healthcare workers poke themselves with needles every year. That's one every minute. For an annual cost burden globally of $600 million in healthcare and work loss costs. So that's the problem, but we have the solution. DECAP. DECAP lets you uncap, recap, and dispose of needles safely with one hand without ever touching the pointy bit, so there's no chance of you ever poking yourself. Now we see 3 target markets, healthcare, veterinary, and research initially, for a global market of $2.2 billion based on North American sharps disposal market of $600 million and a safe needle market of $1.6 billion. We see our SAM in the at $700 million US in North America, $100 million in the West Coast, and a beachhead market of $2.5 million in Western Canada, which is where we're based. Those are the numbers, the problem, and the solution. But now, let me tell you what differentiates our company from the competitors in this room. 4 things. Number 1, we already have a fully functional product. We had $10,000 in sales in Q4 of last year, which was the first quarter that we were able to sell. We've already filed a provisional and a PCT patent, and we've received our Health Canada Class 1 medical certification device, so we can distribute medical devices. Number 2, fundraising. We've already raised $160,000 in non-dilutive grants and government funding, as well as accelerators from Canada and Israel. And our R&D team is based in Israel, which means that we're able to tap into the startup nation's ecosystem and ethos. Third, we're already in conversations with investors for our seed round of $300,000 to move from 3D printing our device to mass manufacturing. And finally, we are a startup with impact. We're here to make workers, frontline and healthcare workers, safer. So we're here to protect the people that protect you. We're here to reduce worker burnout, increase productivity, and help with the vaccine rollout, which is going to be going on for years to come, especially in developed nations. So how are we going to get there? Our B2B and B2C channels are already open, and we're already working with distributors, having positive conversations with 3M, Fisher, and Jorvit in the US. We aim to sell the device for $29.99, and we have a break-even point at year 2 with gross revenue by the end of year 5, $18 million per year, and $9 million of net profit, which would be about 2% of the North American market. This is the team that's going to get the job done. We have a deep level of experience in clinical, research, and engineering spaces. We have more than 50 years of biomedical experience combined, and we have more than 50 years of engineering experience. We also are based in Israel and Canada, so we're able to take advantage of the generous R&D grants that the Canadian government offers to tone down our R&D costs, while also taking advantage of the cutting-edge Israeli health tech scene. We also have a wide network of partners, universities, industry, other institutions, as well as advisors at several different accelerators around the world. Thank you for listening to my presentation today. And with DECAP, let's eliminate needle stick injuries worldwide.
Thank you very much. Amazing pitch. And now we start with the jury questions.
Very good. I have a little treat for the jury. So we're going to pass out some needles, which will enable you to get the feeling of what it's like while you're not answering questions to work with needles. If you are afraid of your needle, with good reason, you might want our device.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I don't have to stick myself with a needle now. But okay. But just to be clear, the actual device that you manufacture is what I do after I use the needle. I just put it in there to be safe. So it's away and it's a one-off needle and I stick it in there, right?
So it is a one-off needle, but our device will let you uncap and recap needles. So recapping is where most people poke themselves, and every needle has to be uncapped and recapped 4 times before it's used. So when you're trying the needles, try uncap, recap 4 times.
Mhm.
Our device lets you recap safely.
What type of device is it? Is it classed as a medical device or a medical product? And
Yes,
what kind of
this is a-
certification process does it have to go
This is
through?
a Class 1 medical device. We already have Health Canada Class 1 certification, which is equivalent to the FDA Class 1 certificate. We're
Mhm.
going to convert it to that certification via a 510K pathway in 2022.
Mhm.
And we're going to look at our CE mark as well.
And every one of these, is it only usable once? Because it retails, you said, at $29.99.
Mhm.
Can you use it once or can you reuse it or?
So this is also a disposal container. It's a one-stop shop. So that means you are able to use it until it fills up. It's modular, which means once you're finished with it, you unscrew the top and you can throw away the bottom part, but you can keep the top, which has a lifespan of about 6 months. But if you're in a higher sterile environment or if you use a lot of needles, it'll fill up faster.
Mhm. So you must have an average number of how much usability you get out of one of those $30 devices.
6 months.
6 months. Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there more questions?
So you mentioned in the lifetime of a customer, do you know how many of this would they need on average? Let's say, take an example, a target customer, and then run through how many would they need?
Okay, so early target customers for us are veterinary facilities and animal research facilities, which would buy about 100 of these every 6 months, and they would run through them about every 6 months. Now, if you're looking at larger customers, which are our eventual target market, these are healthcare authorities, entire counties in the US that are going to buy this for their whole hospital system. Now we're talking about tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of devices. These would either sit on the same table, just like you guys have here when the person does the injection, the vaccine. They would either sit there with a Sharps container for full disposal because you still have to throw the syringe away somewhere, or they would integrate, and we're working on a suite of devices that will integrate with Sharps containers so that it would be a part of the Sharps container.
Got it. And quick question on you projected from the 16 billion. I'm just wondering about the cost of solving this, right? So of course there's needle sac injuries, and you said 16 billion injections are used, right? But out of that, you're saying the cost as a result of injection is actually 2.2 billion cost to solve, right?
So the
you're
cost,
actually limiting the burden of that cost.
yes. So we are lowering the burden. The cost is in the hundreds of millions of dollars in North America alone, and there's no data on the rest of the world really. So it is in the billions. This is work loss and people getting sick. So we are lowering that cost in addition to improving people's safety at work. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Helge?
Yeah, thanks for the pitch. What is your gross margin on that?
The margin. So right now we can produce this device for $32 via 3D printing when you sell it for $49. But when we move to injection molding, we'll be able to produce it for $5, and we're going to sell it for $29.99, which is a profit margin of around 80%. And if we sell through a distributor, we're going to sell it to them at $15. So we're going to have around a 66% margin for ourselves.
All right, thanks. And second question, this is a developed product. What's the R&D section for?
So the R&D section is because we're not a one-stop shop and we don't have just this product. We are launching and designing a line of products that work in a number of different environments. So not just on your table, but also in a biosafety hood, which is quite a large market, or in a mobile clinic that goes around and does injections with cows. This is also a large market. Or in your own home, if you have to perform injections on your relative who is sick, and you're not an expert needle user. So we have a line of products that we're working on, and we're building ourselves out as an R&D firm that's able to do a lot of this workplace safety work.
Thanks.
Are there more questions from the jury? Okay, one quick question.
Yeah, just one more question. Basically, I mean, I understand that research facilities maybe have the financial means basically to buy it. I mean, you said like it's only 30 euros, but again, you need a lot of them basically because you can use a maximum of 6 months. But in the hospital sector, there's a huge cost pressure. And of course, now you will say me, okay, we are saving basically people from getting injured and basically cannot come to work. But then compared to the costs, basically, I mean, if I would probably in hospital under this cost pressure, I would probably say like, nice idea, and I like to protect my employees, but unfortunately I cannot afford it. So what do you say in this situation?
This is an excellent question. So that's why our product is also a sharps disposal container. Hospitals are already spending $600 million a year in North America on sharps containers. But with our product, they can buy it instead, and then they also get the added benefit of protection for their workers. We are also working on units that will integrate with the sharps container. So this is an early version, and we cannot 3D print a full sharps container. You know, they're quite large. But we are working on those products. So we're going to have a sharps container that they can buy instead of, that would be priced at the same level.
Amazing. Then are there questions online?
Yes, we have one question from online.
You can go ahead.
Okay, we have two. So it's from Bachu again, and he is asking or saying that there's already electronic sterilizers or burners of needles and syringes. And what do you have to say to that?
I'm sorry, I don't really understand the question. An electronic burner or a needle?
Yeah, he's saying that there is already electronic sterilizers or burners of needles and syringes.
Yes, but this is not a product that sterilizes needles. This is a product that helps you work with needles more safely so you don't poke yourself. I know the products he's referring to. They're not comparable. They serve different purposes. They're like apples and oranges.
And then he has a follow-up question, and he's asking if this is sustainable and climate friendly.
Excellent question. So this does have an eco-friendly aspect to it. If you designate one of these units in your space to collect only the caps and not the needles themselves, then you can actually recycle caps. And we have a pilot project doing this right now at the University of British Columbia, partnering with their green labs. The caps, which you see on your desks right now, are 15% of the weight of the entire needle and syringe combo. They're 100% recyclable. So we are working on that. And whether the entire product is recyclable, it's not, and that's because it's a biosafety container. Biosafety containers have to be incinerated. This is the law.
All right. So are there any questions from the audience here? I think, yes, there is one.
You're saying that I have to buy every 6 months a new container for this, but you also said that it's screw off, like I can screw off the thing. What prevents me from just emptying the container and reusing it?
That's an excellent question. So depending on the workplace, as I said, 6 months is an average. You might use it for longer if you're in a workplace that really wants to save money. It's your right to do that. However, in high sterility workplaces like research labs, animal facilities, and hospitals, the regulations are that they would need to dispose of this properly. But that is an option, so you can extend the life. Eventually, the plastic will wear down, but the product is designed to be modular, so you can screw off the top if you're finished with the bottom, or you can, if the bottom is worn out and you're not finished with the top, you can screw that off and only buy the piece that you need, so it saves you money there too.
Just real quick, so there are already retractable needles on the market. Do you consider them a competitor, or is that once again, like you said, apples and oranges?
Oh, so that's an excellent question. There are retractable needles on the market. So retractable needles are 10 times more expensive than regular needles. They're very, very expensive, and they're not used in practice. Another type of needle that is used more commonly is the BD Eclipse, which has a flip-over guard that you put on after you use it. That is also 10 times more expensive than a regular needle. And I can tell you from experience as a clinician, and also from experience talking to many clinicians, it is a despised product. It is mandated in many jurisdictions, but it is despised. It's cumbersome to use. You can still poke yourself, and people simply don't like it. So if you're spending 10 times amount versus cutting that out of the equation, that's another place that you save money, because you can buy this and go back to using regular needles like those.
Amazing. Okay, we have only 16 seconds left. I don't think this is enough for another question. So thank you so much, Jamie.
All right, well, I'm just going to say very quickly, I understand that there's audience participation. We want your participation. This might not be a product that you're going to use, but it might be a product that your family or friends are going to use. So please vote for us.
So the time is up now. Thank you so much. You can hand me back the microphone at the clicker. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Next team, we have ExoHeal. Please come to the stage. Okay, but you're not part of the pitch. You're not part of the pitch. You said you're not up. Okay. Here's your clicker. Tell us when you're ready. Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Could you imagine waking up in the morning, putting your toothpaste on, and every time you try to brush, you miss a stroke? Thankfully, this is not you. More than 200 million paralyzed patients go through this every single day, and you don't need a caretaker. Visiting rehabilitation centers for these paralyzed patients is a chore. They require emotional drive. They require emotional drive to go to these centers in the first place, and then are exposed to its depressing ambience. On top of that, there are long waiting lines, and rehabilitation is expensive. Rehabilitation centers, on average, receive more than 50 patients every single day, and they possess about 4 advanced robot rehabilitation devices, and these are quite expensive. Our solution, ExoHeal, offers rehabilitation centers with an affordable and accessible robot rehabilitation device, which enables them to provide adaptive rehabilitation as a patient-centric model. It eliminates waiting lines and enables these centers to cater to more patients. Now, ExoHeal is divided into a sensory good hand and an exoskeletal paralyzed hand. So when a movement is performed by the good hand of the patient, the exoskeleton will force the paralyzed hand to mirror the exact same motion. In this instance, something called as a mirror neuron in the brain activates and helps these patients recover faster. The application enables doctors to monitor the patient's progress and guide them throughout the various stages of rehabilitation. And these patients can comfortably use a device at their home. This not only reduces labor costs and time, but enables these centers to cater to more patients. After working with 7 doctors, over 50 patients, and 4,500 hours of user testing, results have shown that ExoHeal helps these patients recover 30% faster, and in some instances, patients felt sensations in their paralyzed hand on the very first day, weeks or months faster than traditional therapy. Our target market includes over 50 major rehabilitation centers across India and Pakistan, out of which we've already established partnerships with 8. Moving forward, we'll be conducting extensive clinical trials in the 3rd quarter of this year and acquire the necessary certifications. We are using a B2B 5-year leasing model, providing devices in bulk to rehabilitation centers and hospitals. These centers then keep these devices in stock and distribute them to patients accordingly. These centers are also tied in for yearly maintenance for both the device and the database. After 5 years, we buy back the device at a 10% premium. As for marketing, we'll be marketing ExoHeal through networking conferences and events, through direct sales, and we plan on building trust and authority through channels such as television, interviews, and magazines. For instance, most recently, ExoHeal was featured in Forbes, as a result of which we had hundreds of inquiries from patients and more than 20 doctors from across the globe wanting to collaborate. As for competitive advantages, ExoHeal's margin is at $2,400 compared to these competitors. We provide a portable and robot-assisted device which enables patients to undergo rehabilitation at their home, and most importantly, we provide adaptive rehabilitation, which ensures that the patients put in the right amount of effort. Based on our current prototype development costs, our monthly gross burn rate is $10,000, and we require an initial investment of $100,000 for completing the clinical trials and starting production. We plan on acquiring this through seed funding, government programs, and programs such as Bremen Start House. Our projected revenue is based on providing 100 devices times 8 hospitals, leading to $2.4 million in the next 5 years. As for our timeline,
As for our timeline, we plan on launching officially in 2023, and in 2024 we'll be expanding internationally, and we'll also move on to other body parts. The team consists of professionals that have industry experience in the lines of disability startups, project management, robotics, application design, and dealing with patients. We've been grateful enough to have been guided by by these esteemed mentors, and not to mention JSC mentors as well. We are currently being guided by Microsoft MVP, and so these are supportive sponsors and grants. And ExoHeal has also garnered international recognition, being invited by Google.
And this is where we have to stop you. Thank you so much. I think this deserves some applause. That was great. And now we once again open it up for questions from the jury. Are there any? Yes, Raju.
So in the traditional model where they go to this rehabilitation centers, what would happen? So is there a device waiting there? Your nearest competing product, you said cost $10,000 or euros. I didn't get that, but 15,000. Okay. So, and that's sitting there, and then the patient then has to use it in that rehabilitation center. Is that how it goes?
Provided that they can afford the $15,000. Yes.
But they have to go to the rehabilitation.
They have to go to the rehabilitation center on a regular basis, and these trips can be ranging from anywhere around 2 to maybe 4 times a week.
So why do they? So in your scenario, the cost is. First question is, why is it so cheap? Mm-hmm. If you're providing so much, even you're saving the time to visit, even go there. So why is it so cheap?
Well, I'm sorry, we've clarified this before. But let him answer the questions as he's responsible for the startup.
All right. Okay, I'm in the operations group.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello. Yes. Can you please repeat the question?
So you just went through the whole story about what goes on. I'm just asking, why is it so cheap compared to competitors, even though you're actually skipping this rehabilitation trips?
Right. Okay, so why is it more cheaper than the competitors?
Yes.
Okay, so in the beginning we started off with 3D printing, but now we are moving towards using injection molds, and this drastically brings down the cost as well. So what happens with these traditional robot devices? They tend to use big machinery such as hydraulic systems. Although these are effective, they are quite bulky in nature, and they just hinder patient movement as well. So for your previous question, this relates to your previous question as well. So when the patients use these devices at these rehabilitation centers, they are fixed to a chair, and they have to basically use the device like this. All right. Whereas with ExoHeal, you can move around anywhere and perform daily tasks.
So okay, and in the clinical trials you mentioned. So what's the designation? Is it going to be a medical device? What's the designation?
It's going to be a Class 2 medical device.
Okay, got it.
Again, a bit of clarification on the product itself. It's meant for home use, but it's sold through the rehab clinic or the hospital. But the patient takes this back home to practice hand movements with it because the injury or whatever is trying to cure has been a hand injury.
Yes.
Okay, so in Germany, for example, we will be looking for a reimbursement model. So ultimately, the health insurances will be looking to pay for this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For which it needs classification as a medical device. Then you have a more complicated distribution route where the doctors have to buy into this first of all and send the patients home with it. Can this be used without any instructions at home? And who makes sure that the patient uses this correctly? Because even inhalers for asthma are not used correct. 90% of people who use inhalers at home don't use them correctly. So how do you ensure, because this doesn't, it looks like a glove, but it's probably not as easy to operate for someone in the home, and who monitors that?
Okay, so so the device you see in front of you right now, this was the first device that was developed in 2016. Okay, we have developed 7 more prototypes after this. The current one is being jointly developed by my team in Saudi Arabia and India. and that one literally is like a second skin. We are on a route to patent that device. Hence
So
why
you
I
put it
cannot-
on as a glove, essentially.
It's basically like a
it
glove.
helps you to practice hand movements.
It's literally like a glove that you
Yeah.
wear. It does not have any of these protrusions.
Yeah.
All right.
But still, to pay 3,000 euros or dollars per pop for health insurance, this needs to really ensure that there is a therapeutic benefit, that people really have a much improved recovery rate and can use this much more quickly. It's notoriously difficult to get health insurances to acknowledge this and pay for it, because you surely want this to be a device that can be used by everyone, regardless of whether or not they can afford it.
Can you please repeat the last part?
My question is just, I mean, have you got any evidence yet that this really leads to the fast recovery rates that you are claiming it has?
Yes. As mentioned before, we have worked with patients. One of the very first patients we worked with was an uncle of mine. Okay, and he was the reason why I started this project in the first place. I had met him on one of my vacations, and I was shocked to find his condition. All right, and by using the device, my uncle was able to significantly see improvements in the movement of his hand, and we were able to notice this in other patients as well.
But you now have clinical trial evidence, not just anecdotal evidence.
So we were initially scheduled to conduct our clinical trials in 2020, but because of the pandemic, we had to keep shifting things around, and 2021 came, more problems came in, and hence why we decided to do it jointly between Pakistan and India in the third quarter of this year. I hope that answers your question.
Great. And with that, we can come to the audience Q&A, and I see there's already one here in the front. Yes. Lars.
I have a question actually about focus of your team, because I noticed some people seem to be doing multiple things at once, not just one company, and having personally bankrupted companies before because losing focus. How are you going to address that? Like, what are you actually focusing on, one or the other company, or are you trying to balance both somehow?
I believe that's targeted towards me, if that's all right, if I could answer this.
So you can only represent one startup here at this competition, so therefore he's going to answer the
Okay.
question. Thank you very much. Zain.
I wasn't able to articulate the last part of your question with the mask on. I wasn't able to understand the last part of your question with the mask on. Your voice was quite muffled.
Sorry, I was trying to find out how you are trying to address the fact that not all of your team might have 100% attention on this right now.
Okay. What do you call it? So I believe the question is regarding my associate Ali over here. Ali has experience in scaling a few startups in the past, and we can show you his schedule if you want. Can I please have the laptop?
Yes.
This is literally Ali's schedule at the moment. So I believe that should answer your question.
Amazing. So then we have another question over here by Jamie.
So just to clarify, from a clinical perspective, because another judge did touch on this, but I just wanted to get it all clear for the audience and everything. You have a claim that you have improvement over time with your device. But clinically speaking, people who have suffered a stroke or another brain injury also improve over time. So where is the proof that they are not just improving naturally over time? And do you have any clinical endpoints?
Okay, so some of these patients were undergoing rehabilitation for 2 years with no improvement at all, right? And these are the people that we chose to work with, all right? And immediately after using ExoHeal, they were able to see tremendous improvement in their fingers or in their mindsets or so on.
What? Zain, I just told you.
I'm confused by...
Would you like to rephrase the question potentially? Zain, please stop.
Yeah,
Could you move over there, please? Thank you very much.
So to be clear, only anecdotal evidence, no comparison of gold standard versus your targeted therapy, and no clinical endpoints.
Okay. So we have worked with patients under the guidance of various physiotherapists, and they were the ones that had confirmed that ExoHeal is indeed able to help these patients recover faster. So it is not just us working with patients. This was under physiotherapists.
Great. And then I think there's a question from the jury. Sorry, Raz? Now.
Test. Yeah, now it's working.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I don't bash you. I just have a question, basically. This glove, if I understand it correctly, should speeding up your recovery process if, for example, you have a broken hand. Is that understanding, I mean, first, is this understanding correct, as an example?
No, it's for patients with paralysis.
Ah, okay, got it. Okay. And basically, if you would basically, let's assume you get clinical trials approved and let's say you get license, etc. How big is your market segment? I mean, how many potential people actually are suffering from this? And out of those, basically, who would be affordable to go to the hospital to have the insurance, basically, in particular in your market segment where you want to enter,
right?
India, and basically, how many of those actually would be interested in particular this device? Because obviously there are other devices which potentially will be already covered by the health insurance, I assume.
Can you please repeat the last part?
Just basically, how big is the market segment? That's
okay. So how big the market segment? Okay, so what do you call it? So according to statistics from Christopher Reeves Foundation, there are more than 200 million paralyzed patients across the globe, and as for people that are afflicted with just hand paralysis or bilateral paralysis, that would be approximately, if I'm not mistaken, close to 60 million people, and
just in the market where you start, basically.
Okay, so India and Pakistan. So India and Pakistan, 1.2 million, which is, what do you call it? So, so we are targeting 1.2 million patients.
You're already over time, please come to an end.
Yeah, okay. So the entire market in India and Pakistan is approximately, so there isn't an actual number, but it's approximately around 10 to 12 million.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. If you can hand me the clicker, you can bring the microphones over there. Great. Thank you very much to all of the finalists. Now, here we are, because that's already it. Those were the 10 finalists who have been pitching today. We've seen a lot of amazing business ideas, and now the important part comes. And that is the jury evaluation as well as the audience evaluation. So the jury will have time now, half an hour we have to reschedule, so that will give you time until 5:45. And you will be able to discuss the evaluation. You'll be brought into a separate room and you can go through the evaluation once again until you then finally submit it to us. In the meantime, the audience, you can also use this time. I ask you for your silence, please. Thank you very much. Björn, thank you very much. So, Irene, thank you very much. So you will have time now, 30 minutes to evaluate the pitches, as well as the audience, and you can scan the QR code and you can choose your favorite pitch, and that will then give a 5% bonus to the team which is winning the audience award. So in the meantime, we also have networking planned. So that means that all the finalist teams will be available on Airmeet, on this platform. This especially goes to our audience online at their respective tables. If you move to the section where you see it's called the lounge section at the top, and there you see several tables, and there all the finalist teams will be representing themselves, and you can ask them more questions if you're still curious. You can also use this opportunity to network with other people online, so please make use of this. Yeah, so we see you back in 30 minutes. Thank you very much.